It's Thursday, the 29th of May. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the BLANCOLIRIO channel, and it's time for a long overdue Oroville update. The reservoir is full once again this year, and what's significant is that for the last 3 years, we have consistently been able to completely refill this reservoir, and I can't remember the last 3 years in a row that we've been able to do this. More often than not, the rain season is such that Oroville does not quite get topped off, especially 3 years in a row. Let's check it out. And of course, this video is brought to you by viewers like you that support this channel here on Patreon, and a special shout out to all of you that have been following this channel ever since the Oroville Spillway failure all the way back in 2017, the event that put this channel on the map. Thank you for your support. So if we go back and look at the data of the reservoir elevation for 2025 here on Lakes Online, we can see that in January, the reservoir started at 820 feet and rose to full pool here just in this last week or so, 900 feet elevation. That's the full pool for Oroville Reservoir. Now if we look at the data for the last 3 years, here we can see the reservoir filling up each time in these last 3 years. This year it filled up just here now in May. In 2024, it topped off a little earlier in the very beginning of May, and in 2023 it topped off about halfway through May. Now the rain season starts about October, so back in October of 24 we see the reservoir elevation about 765 feet or so, and the reservoir dipped all the way down to just about 750 feet before the rains returned and the reservoir began to refill this rain season. And if we look back at the last 6 years, you can see that in 2020 through 2022, the reservoir did not quite fill up. So now let's go and take a closer look at exactly what it looked like this morning out of the side window of the Aviat Husky at about 3,500 feet. We're looking at the Oroville Dam, and right back here we're zooming into the outlet tunnels for the Hyatt Power Plant located right down here, and Hyatt Power Plant being located inside the earth-filled dam right over in here. There's the dreaded green spot, not so green looking right now. Here's the Oroville Spillway, over 3,000 feet long, 179, call it 180 feet wide, and it drops down in elevation from the top of the reservoir, 900 feet, all the way down to the Thermalito diversion pool, this pool down here, which is all the way down to 200 and about 225 feet, making a total drop of about 675 feet. Now you can see the gates are just about closed today on the Oroville Spillway, as a lot of the snowmelt has occurred in the High Sierra. There's still high country snow that is still melting and running off, but a lot of that water will be flowing through the Hyatt Power Plant and producing electricity. This is the emergency spillway, and all of this is the rebuilt $1 billion rebuild job of the entire main spillway and emergency spillway here at the Oroville Dam complex. So the emergency spillway here is this stair-stepped roller compacted concrete design where the water simply spills over this weir located at 901 feet and then pours over this stair-step roller compacted concrete, and then underneath this edge here is that secant cutoff wall where they made huge pillars deep down into the soil to prevent back-cutting erosion from eating into the edge of this concrete emergency spillway, and then spill that water right over into the recently formed canyon from the last time the emergency spillway was used back in 2017. Only to be used in the event of an emergency. If for some reason they are unable to maintain control of this reservoir, the water is going to simply pour out of this emergency spillway. Now you can see some water coming out of the concrete here on the emergency spillway. There's a lot of springs and moisture underneath all of this concrete that will continue to ooze out of here pretty much all year long. So there's the red buoy keeping the all of the debris from all of the wildfires in the Feather River Canyon watershed from getting into the spillway gates located underwater right here. And massive efforts are constantly underway harvesting the floating debris on Oroville Reservoir and dragging. There's a closer look at the water seepage from underneath the emergency spillway. It's not necessarily water leaking through from the reservoir. Anyways, the timber, they round them up into big balls and pull them off with a barge off to the side of the reservoir and burn them. Now, here we're looking at the water inlet structure for the Hyatt power plant. So this inlet structure here is a sloped affair with multiple gates so that they can control the water temperature through the Hyatt power plant. If they want to pull water from a lower elevation, thus cooler water, to feed that into the Feather River system, or just run it right off the top of the reservoir at whatever temperature that water temperature is. So that gives them some control of the temperature of the water flowing into the Feather River. Let me back up here a sec. And of course, the dam itself is the tallest earth-filled dam in the United States at over 700 feet tall from the base of the dam to the top. And here you can see a lot of the good terracing they put into place as a part of this rebuild project to gain access to all this infrastructure, including the drain system that's properly draining underneath this spillway to prevent the kind of failures that we saw back in 2017, where water pressure underneath the spillway due to cracks in the spillway built up and caused the spillway to eventually fail. Now, backing up here, you can see all this burned vegetation in this area. That was the Thompson fire in July of 2024, which burned about 3,700 acres, and it burned right up here into the Oroville Spillway complex. And it's good to see a return of all the boats and large houseboats here at Oroville moored right over here. Plenty of great boating access on Oroville this year. This little dam here is called the Saddle Dam area. If we take a quick look at all the reservoirs here in California, we see most of them are in really good shape. Oroville, 99% capacity. A lot of good blue on the map here. Shasta, 92%. Bullard's Bar near us here at 99%. Folsom, 94%. Don Pedro at 94%. San Luis, not sure what's going on there, at just 66% capacity. I don't know if there's more construction going on. And some of the reservoirs even down south are looking to be in pretty good shape. The latest version of the California drought map shows Northern California to be in great shape and some drought conditions to be expected in Southern California. California water and California water politics is complicated and worth fighting over, but the Oroville Reservoir is a keystone reservoir in the State Water Project, located right up here, and then along with Shasta Reservoir, a federal project located up here, feeds the Sacramento River. Oroville feeds the Feather River into the Sacramento River. So these watersheds all go from north to south and flow out of the San Francisco Bay. And the San Joaquin River system moves basically from south to north and again drains out the San Francisco Bay. So the State Water Project conveys water from Northern California through a series of pumps bypassing the San Francisco Bay via the Sacramento Delta area and moves that water into the California Aqueduct system and conveys that water all the way down to Southern California. And here's a map showing some of the amazing statistics of this plumbing. Over 2,000 miles of canals, pipelines, and aqueducts to convey the water throughout California here, with the California Aqueduct being the largest or longest of them all at 444 miles long, from the California Delta all the way down to Southern California. So let's go back and take a look at the reservoir on the 2nd of April earlier this year from the 206. The reservoir level was at 875 feet, and they're releasing, at the time of this photograph, about 10,000 cubic feet per second out of the Oroville Spillway. So they're gradually ramping up, filling up the reservoir carefully as the snow melts off here in the mountains. And on or about that date, we had snow all the way down to this elevation, about 3,000 feet. Of course, you can see all the green grass then as the rain season was just beginning to wrap up before it all browned up here as temperatures warmed up in our Mediterranean summer climate here in Northern California. And also in this picture, you can see how they rerouted the transmission lines out of the Hyatt power plant after the Spillway failure of 2017. Originally, the transmission lines came out of the Hyatt power plant located right here and just went straight across the spillway and emergency spillway and into the rest of the grid. Well, when that emergency spillway failed back in 2017, it threatened to erode and topple those power lines. So they just emergency cut those power lines and eventually removed those towers and rerouted the entire transmission line across the diversion pool once, twice, bring it all the way around the emergency spillway, and then bring it back into the grid way over here so that they won't get washed away if they ever use this emergency spillway ever again. So on this same date, the 2nd of April, I took a little flight up the watershed here at Oroville to show you what it's like up here. And here's some of that steep and rugged terrain in the Feather River Canyon that feeds the Oroville Reservoir. Again, this is back on the 2nd of April, shot out of the 206. And here's a neat shot coming down the Feather River using the bubble windows in the 206, looking straight down on the flow of the fork of the Feather River coming into Oroville Reservoir. So pretty good flow. We had a good rain season this year, an almost average, just slightly under average, I'd say, in this part of the Sierra Nevada mountains of snow and precipitation that allowed us to capture enough water to completely top off the Oroville Reservoir for the 3rd year in a row. So as we move out of flood season, we roll right into fire season, and here I am heading up to Oroville this morning, and already we've got a small fire spotted over here. There's an important PSA message we're going to be getting out this summer, working together with the CAL FIRE boys. Breaking news, stand by. I've recently completed my training and been awarded a FAAST FAA Safety Team Representative certificate so that I can begin doing these presentations and getting folks wings credit for some of these presentations that I do here online, and will be putting some of these on to the FAA website. And one of the first things we're going to tackle is air operations over fires here in California and anywhere out in the West here. Because one of the big problems my friends here at CAL FIRE have, especially on the first day of a fire, is conflicts with general aviation traffic, the near mid-air collisions around a wildfire, especially a wildfire that's just starting. So when I saw this smoke here this morning, I stayed away from it by at least 10 miles because I didn't know if anybody was going to be responding to this fire or not. When a fire first starts out, it takes the CAL FIRE and Forest Service at least a day, maybe 2 days, if a fire gets big enough to require a TFR or temporary flight restriction area around it. Meanwhile, there's no TFR in the beginning stages of one of these fires, yet aircraft are responding. So if you see smoke, do not go to the smoke. Avoid it. And you can avoid it from a distance, and you can call it in from a distance, and you just need to give them a general area if you want to bother to call it in at all, because with today's technology, there's virtually no fire that goes undetected anymore, and I'll show you why. Because of this, the Alert California wildfire camera system, with hundreds and hundreds of cameras now located throughout the state, they are monitoring the entire state much better than the old lookout system used to do. And these cameras now are using AI, artificial intelligence, to help them locate smoke. And when they see smoke, they focus in on it right away, and somebody's alerted to it. And before an actual human sees the fire, these cameras see the fire and report them in. And here's an example, a 6-hour loop back on the Bar Ranch camera. Just looking out this general direction, and boom, it picks up on that smoke, that very same smoke I just showed you in the picture that I flew by, and it focused right in on it as soon as it was spotted. So this is how fires are being located today here in California. So here at the CAL FIRE Grass Valley Air Attack Base here at Nevada County Airport, they're just now spooling up. They've only got the OV-10 Bronco on staff right now, but they're going to be getting the 2 S2T tankers that are normally based here in the next couple of days. Meanwhile, my friend Dave Crusoe, dirt bike riding buddy, and the air tac officer, the guy who flies in the back seat of the OV-10 that directs the entire air show over the fire, has put together a wonderful presentation about air operations over these fires here in California and how to avoid a mid-air collision by staying out of these areas. And he gives an excellent explanation of how the operations work over the fire. We're going to put together a video, and we're going to do a presentation, and we're going to make it a FAAST briefing available online. Let me show you the link. So here's the event. I'll post the link in the description of the video below. It'll be a Zoom link, and if we get the technology to work, we should have a nice clear picture of this, and you can watch it live through the Wings program and get your Wings credit if you're part of the FAA Wings Safety Program. We'll also record the video and save it for posterity and see if we can make that also a Wings credit video as well. We'll be doing this on Tuesday, the 3rd of June, social hour at 6 p.m. Meeting starts at 7 p.m. and the Zoom meeting should start at 7 p.m. as well, as long as the technology works over at the Marlow hangar. This hangar will be located right here at Nevada County Airport. And if you want to come see it live, it'll be right here at the Grass Valley Airport. Just come on up and we'll show you where to go. So thank you so much for the support of this channel over all these years since 2017 and the Oroville Spillway. We've come a long way. We hope to do these safety meetings once a month, the first Tuesday of each month. And if we get the technology together, we'll have a Zoom link so you can join us via the Wings Safety Program and get your Wings credit. We'll see you here.